Hello everyone, this is Kristen Johnson from Marketing Profs. Welcome to today's broadcast. To make sure you get the best viewing experience today, you'll want to shut down your email and any other web applications that might be eating up some of your bandwidth. Also, if you're running on a wireless connection today, you are likely to have glitches in your audio. If you're not able to use an Ethernet cable, you may want to call into the teleconference line listed on the bottom of the screen, or you can listen to the on-demand recording later. Before we get started, I'd like to take a minute and thank Trada and Unbounce for sponsoring today's broadcast. Trada is the only performance-based paid search marketplace where mid-market advertisers have access to a global community of highly specialized paid search experts who do the work of campaign build-out, research, and optimization. Trada can help you save time and increase ROI. Unbounce is a self-serve hosted service that provides marketers who are doing paid search, banner ads, email, or social media marketing the easiest way to create, publish, and test promotion-specific landing pages without the need for IT or developers. Okay, now I'm going to hand things over to today's moderator, Anna Sawyer. Anna, the floor is all yours.
Thanks so much, Kristen, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm Anna Sawyer, and I work for Trada. I'm going to take a moment just to introduce everyone else who's here on the call. We are lucky enough to be joined today by Carlos from Unbounce. Carlos, can you say hello?
Hello, everyone.
Carlos, can you talk just a little bit about your experience with landing pages and why you are such an expert?
Yes, so I've been a consultant for about 7 years, and I wrote a book called User-Driven Change, Give Them What They Want, which is all about how to look at your analytics and figure out what you need to change in terms of design or product offering to best serve the people that are already visiting your website.
Great. Everyone, you can follow Carlos del Rio on Twitter at @InflateMouse, and I suggest that you do that. He has a lot of great things to say. Also joined today by Trada Director of Account Management, Matt Hessler. Thanks, Matt, for being here. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in search?
Hello guys, happy to be here today. I am a longtime search veteran, and certainly ever since the Wild West days of search, 2001 to 2005, as people started to figure out what was important for their search campaigns, landing pages became kind of the next evolution in how to integrate driving the right visitors to your site and then creating an environment that's going to have them take the right action when they get there.
Great. Thanks, Matt, for being here. And I'm Anna Sawyer. I've worked for Trada for about 2.5 years. I am a paid search educator. I've run about 50 webinars for Trada, and I will be moderating today, kind of introducing everyone and introducing the concepts. But for the most part, you are going to hear from Matt and Carlos. So everyone, we would encourage you to use the hashtag today on Twitter, PPC landing pages. We will choose one lucky customer to get a $25 Amazon.com gift card, with which you can buy anything you like. Everyone, please enter as many questions as you can possibly think of into the chat box during today's webinar, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. We love your questions. Today's webinar is really focused a lot on real stories and real solutions. We want to hear these real stories and solutions from you as well. So I'm going to kick off right now and just talk about the two big reasons that landing pages are important. And we're going to kind of separate the webinar into two sections where we talk about these two different important strategies for landing pages. One of the reasons that we need good landing pages is that they can actually drive down your PPC click costs. A landing page that is relevant to the campaign that it comes from can actually give you a higher quality score, which means that you can get lower click costs and have your ads served for less. The other reason we need good landing pages is because if you send a customer or a potential customer to a good landing page, you are making it easy for them to convert. Sometimes we talk a little bit about, pretending like your landing page is a store. If you walk into the store and you don't know where to buy something and you're not really sure what the offer is and you can't find what you're looking for, you might turn around and leave the store. But a really good landing page is like a store where you see the product you want and you know exactly how you can buy it. So Carlos is someone who really kind of spends his entire life working with landing pages. And Carlos is going to talk about the 5 essential elements of a winning landing page. So Carlos, can you just introduce these 5 elements, and then we will dive right in.
Absolutely. If you want to be successful with any page on your website, you really have to have a strong headline that tells people what they're going to do on that page. You need to have a demonstration of what it is that you're talking about. So, if you're doing a download for an ebook, you probably want to have something like a brief synopsis or a picture of the cover. If you're doing e-commerce, you want to have some nice pictures of the actual product. You have to have a clear representation of what the value is to the person who is looking at the site. This person who wants to buy this thing needs to know why they are going to derive value from it. I mean, beyond just what they have internally, you want to communicate to them some reason why they should do it here rather than somewhere else. And you should have some sort of support element, something like a testimonial or an endorsement, something that shows that yes, in fact, your value really exists, or gives some extra oomph to your demonstration. And finally, you want a single action for them to take.
And this might seem, a lot of these might seem very obvious, but really there's such a science to making this work. And I'm feeling like we may be missing the slide here where we show the example of a perfect landing page. But we will jump right in to some of the landing pages that our attendees today sent in, actual landing pages from actual attendees today. Carlos has put a ton of work into these, identifying strengths and identifying areas to test. So Carlos, let's jump right into this original landing page that was sent over by Sensor. And can you talk a little bit about some of the things that they're doing very well here?
Yeah, so this is what I really like to see in a landing page. The white background makes it really easy for people to see it and read it. So white backgrounds and dark writing is the best way to have good readability. I really love the fact that they've got the phone number right up at the top. Most eye tracking studies say that almost everyone is going to see that line where they've got their business name and logo, and where they've got the big, really, you can see even on this small screen that it pops, it kind of pops. You know where the phone number is. They also have their address in the footer, which a lot of websites don't give their physical address. And I think that it's important to establish trust with your viewer to let them know that you are a real business that has a location.
Hey, Carlos, I really like the testimonial, I think it is, at the bottom there in the gray box. What other things do you kind of recommend to kind of establish that credibility early on? If this is a site that I've never been to before, do you encourage people to do, whether it's Better Business Bureau logos or things like that? What are some other credibility things that people should try to do?
So I think that major businesses that use your product or your service really helps quite a bit. Once a person can see that a company that they do business with does business with you, or somebody that they would like to do business with does business with you, it makes it feel more genuine. Like they know that they can find another person and ask, oh, hey, do you like this product, or do you like the work that this company does? And it's one that you see fairly often with new products. They'll say, like mentioned in the New York Times or something like that. But to get into things that the individual looking is going to have an association with. So sometimes that's even just like reviews from Twitter or Facebook.
Nice, that makes a ton of sense.
So let's move on to oh, you know what? This slide seems to have just gotten out of order a little bit. This is the other slide where we talk about what all good landing pages have. And we've mocked up just a little entertaining slide here with Carlos's suggestions. So Carlos, this seems very cheesy, but this actually hits all of those 5 points that you talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you can imagine what the pay-per-click ad for this says, right? Buy Xena memorabilia or buy your own Xena chakram. So we've got this kind of follow through of right away I know that the action that I'm going to take is buying the Warrior Princess chakram, and I can see that somebody ordered it, and in 2 days, it already showed up at their house, which for e-commerce, fulfillment is one of the biggest barriers that you have to get over. People need to know that they're going to receive their product in a reasonable amount of time, right? Otherwise, they could just walk down to the store and buy one. So the shipping is free. The shipping is free. So this is all sort of built around the taking down the barrier of worrying about how quickly it's going to get there and how much it's going to cost. I've taken away the cost of shipping and made it easy for people to know that it's going to happen within about 2 days. And then there's a single action that is the exact same action that I told them they were going to do at the beginning of the page. Buy now. And it's ugly, but this is the kind of thing where you know exactly what you're going to get, and you know exactly what you have to do to get it.
We've definitely seen that some of the best converting landing pages are the ugliest ones, but a lot of times there is an opportunity to make things look nice as well, as long as you keep things really clear. I think an interesting point right here, and we'll talk about this a little later on in the presentation, is that there are lots of different types of offers. It could be free shipping, it could be the lowest price, it could be great service, and later we'll talk about kind of testing out some of these different ones, but what's important is that there is an offer. These slides were slightly in the wrong order, but we are going to come back now to some opportunities for testing on this sensor landing page. So Carlos, if you could just kick off some of the ideas that you've come up with for testing ideas, and would you mind talking a little bit about how you come up with these ideas? I mean, is it just that because you work for a landing page company, you've kind of seen it all?
I really became very good at usability and conversion because I have quite a bit of distaste for a lot of the companies that I worked for, right? Like in the old days, I used to go to Amazon and I hated it. It was just it was confusing and there was too much stuff going on, and so I started really just thinking about how I would do things to make it work better for me. And then people started offering me the opportunity to tell them how to do it. And so that's kind of the way where I go, is I say what is it on this page that is boring or eye-catching for the wrong reason, and then sort of step out from that. I go for whatever the goal is supposed to be for the page. How do I enhance that? So, here on this sensor page, this is for restaurant equipment appraisal, but up in the upper right-hand corner where they've got their phone number, it doesn't say restaurant equipment. It's this very general phrase that does not set me off immediately. Like I said in the first version of this slide, one of the first things that you look to is that phone number, and that should match the messaging that I had when I came in and the messaging that's in the major headline. Really, in terms of forms, I always recommend don't ask for any information that you don't actually need. Once a person gets across the barrier, you can ask them their optional questions, and the people who care to answer will answer after they've finished out filling out the form. And you'll get better conversion rates out of that because they don't have to think about it quite as much. I think that the call to action, there really should be a test in doing start your appraisal, because that's what they came here to do, is to get an appraisal, but the button doesn't reiterate the do it now. All of your buttons should be able to finish the phrase I want to. Right? Like, I want to get my appraisal now, that kind of thing. There's really just too much going on this page. If you've paid, like with pay-per-click, to get somebody to your page, you don't really want them to go to Twitter or go to Facebook, because they're going to go there and they're never going to come back. That's another thing that you want to move to the thank you page, because then they have already done the thing that you need, and if they are the kind of person who wants to share, they also get that opportunity after they've taken the action, not before they take the action.
I think that's really interesting, Carlos. We see that a lot. Everybody's on this social kick right now and putting these links and badges, everywhere they can. There's really a time and a place. And if you think about, especially if you've paid to bring a visitor to the page, your point, don't give them an easy opportunity to leave the page. Do that after they've taken the action, after you've gotten their information, whatever transaction needed to happen, then let them communicate that, to their social media spheres. So I think that's a great point.
So let's jump to the next example here, and this is a really great example of, I spoke with this company a little bit. They are getting ready to do paid search, and the example of a landing page they sent me was actually their homepage. Now, Carlos had some comments about this, and one of the best things about this is that this is kind of wide open. And later on in the webinar, we're actually going to show this advertiser how to kind of kick off their landing page program. But Carlos, can you talk a little bit about what the opportunities are here?
So the opportunities here is that like most homepages, this doesn't really communicate an action to take. It's really just sort of leaving the person in the field and saying, hey, find what you want. That's great for not getting bounces, but that doesn't actually get the visitor any closer to fulfilling their need or the action that you would like them to take as a business.
And we have a pretty across-the-board directive of, if it's possible, don't drive traffic to your homepage. Again, with this sort of comparison of bringing someone into your store, if somebody says, I want a red T-shirt, and you plunk them at the beginning of the store and there are no signs to where the red T-shirts are and they're not even sure where they can buy them, they're less likely to check out and buy that red T-shirt. You want to drop them off right in the red T-shirt section. So let's talk about our next example. This is one that I'm really into here. So this is Ace Ortho Solutions. These guys make custom dog leg braces and other orthopedic devices for your dogs. And they already have a really great voice on their website. They sell directly to veterinarians, but they also have a part of their website where they are marketing directly to dog owners who then will take this information to their vet, which I think is a really interesting call to action and just a really interesting business model. So Carlos has put together a couple of really awesome examples here. And Carlos, if you can talk a little bit about what's already good about this, and then we will jump into these awesome ideas to test.
So I like character logos. That little dog up there is kind of easy to recognize really wherever you go. I mean, like, that's the kind of thing where I'm just like, Ace is the dog people. That works really well for me. The pictures that they chose of the dogs are just like heartwarming, mainly because I have a dog, not nearly as pretty as any of these ones and incredibly stupid, but I think of my dog when I see these faces because I've seen all of these faces from my dog. So I think it touches on that sort of benefit side of the product, and I love that they have a really simple form.
And then we move into one of your test options here. Why do you suggest a light background? Does that generally tend to test better?
Yes, and when generally it is basically the only thing that you can do that never goes wrong, with the exception of speed. Making your page faster or making your page easier to read is always going to get you better results.
So that's something interesting that we actually don't really talk about when we talk about landing page design, but just from a very fundamental development perspective, putting a bunch of stuff on your landing page can sometimes severely slow it down, which can increase bounce rate and can really cause problems. And I don't know if you want to just take a moment to talk about that, but that is highly, highly important. Reducing your page speed by just a couple of seconds can increase your conversion rate immensely.
Yes, even half a second can be very good. 1 second generally gets you about a 7% increase in conversion rate.
Wowzers.
This also affects on the pay-per-click side because Google does look at page load speed as a minor factor to overall quality score. So it's a win on all sides to get those pages to load faster.
So you've also suggested that we get rid of the logo repetition and ask for the dog's name. Now this is a product that is maybe in some ways an emotional product to buy. People are buying this product for a dog that they love who has, maybe a medical issue. So I love the idea that you're asking for the dog's name, because then in the follow-up, you always have this personal connection where you know the dog's name. I think that is a great idea.
Yeah, you can ask, how is Buster doing? It's like we hope that the brace is working out for you and Buster, et cetera, because this is something where it's not so much the person, but the person's connection to their dog that is driving their action, and that's really, that's the benefit that the person is deriving from this, is that relationship. You can see here that I'm also saying that they should put simple descriptions of what the braces are for, because the original content there, which is things like looking for answers. Well, yes, they ended up on this page because they were looking for answers. Using that as your tagline for downloading the document, they don't know which one of these to choose from that kind of information. And you'll see in the next version of this is a really radical redesign where I basically just go over everything, right? Like, this is the way I would have put this page together. I would have gotten rid of most of the content on it. I would have asked for the dog's name. I would have said what each one of these braces is meant to do. Is it for the front leg? Is it for the back leg? And instead of repeating the logo, I would put the name of the dog, in the same way that I was doing the test of putting ask for dog's name instead of ask for the human's name. I would test putting names to these animals.
I love this, as a pet lover, as I'm sure many of us are. This is just so humanizing, dogizing. It's very warm, and it's a little bit spunky and a little bit fun. Super great landing page. Big fan. So we have one more landing page, and you'll notice that there's a great deal of diversity in these landing pages that we chose. Some of them are B2C, some of them are B2B. They have a lot of different types of calls to action. This is the type of landing page that we may have seen before. You'll see over on the left, I actually took a screenshot of the entire landing page, and it's very, very long. Many, many different opportunities to have calls to action. There's a ton of information here, lots of testimonials, all of which I think are very positive. Testimonials, especially this one right here. Bill, you could sell me anything. That is a pretty killer testimonial. And Carlos, would you be so kind as to talk a little bit about what's good and what we can test here?
Yeah, having a long page is not necessarily bad if long is what it takes to communicate those 5 important points. You'll notice that there's a couple of the couple of different places where the call to action is repeated. That's really important when you're doing a long page. But this has some sort of major drawbacks in the way that it's presenting its information, right? Like, they're using a video, which can be great for conveying information, but it auto starts, which basically means that any person who's watching this at work is immediately going to leave your page, because you end up drawing attention to them. You end up making it disruptive to their ability to do other things at the same time. Also, there's a mismatch in the way that the testimonials are done. So the one that's here as example, where the name is B Sheridan, there's then another type of testimonial on here that's about the actual product, where it's the full name of the person and the website that they're from. When you have 2 different styles of testimonial, they basically cause this mismatch in the person's mind over authenticity. So if you're going to put testimonials, you need to be consistent in the way that you present them.
I have a couple questions. First of all, what are your thoughts on auto-starting the video with no sound?
It's not as big of a problem, but as I mentioned earlier, site speed is a huge factor in conversion, and the longer that you put off actually asking for rich media, the faster the page will load.
Okay, and my other comment here is that at least on my smaller MacBook screen, there were no calls to action above the fold. And for those of you who are kind of newer to this idea of design, above the fold means you don't have to scroll down for it. So this screenshot from my screen doesn't have any calls to action without having to scroll down.
Yeah, that is the sort of first line of what you're supposed to do is let them get done before they even finish loading the page. Let them just immediately take action if possible.
Awesome, Carlos. So I'd like to move on a little bit and talk about the sort of second important landing page list of rules. So we've talked a lot about how when you get someone to your landing page, how to make sure that they convert, but as we were talking about earlier, the content on your landing page also matters very much to your PPC. So I'm going to go very quickly through kind of the way that quality score works, so you can all get a refresher, and then we'll talk about ways to make sure that your landing page is relevant to your PPC campaign, which will help drive down costs. So as I'm sure we're all familiar, in paid search, thoughtful work pays off. So if you work really hard on your paid search campaign and you're very smart about the way you architect it, you can actually drive down costs, which is what makes paid search in many ways the great equalizer. It makes it possible for you as maybe a smaller company and not a huge conglomerate to be able to beat your big competitors simply by being smart. And this is because Google and Yahoo Bing assign something called quality score. And yes, it is mysterious. Nobody really knows what it's all made up of, but it does include click-through rate, keyword to ad relevance, and landing page relevance. So the most important things to think about for high quality score are ad groups that are very small and very thematic, relevant ads with compelling language and calls to action, which will increase click-through rate. You write an ad that people want to click through. And then landing pages that have keyword relevance to ad groups and ads. Now what this means is that on your landing page, you need to have keywords that are also in your campaign and also in your ads. And this is the only one that lives outside of your PPC dashboard. This lives outside of AdWords. This lives outside of Bing. And it can often be sort of one of the most forgotten things. And Hessler, if you could jump in here just in a minute and talk a little bit about, we're going to talk about two different strategies for making sure that the copy on your landing page matches the copy in your PPC campaign. So one of our strategies is called working backwards. And Carlos, absolutely feel free to chime in at any point. This is not necessarily Matt's section or anything, but Matt is going to talk a little bit about some options for working backwards. So here is an example right now with this Bill Hall direct marketing landing page that we saw earlier.
Yes. So you have to figure out, which should lead the other. If you've done some PPC testing, you know the major themes that are going to drive the types of visitors you want on your site that have kind of self-elected by the queries they've done. Then what you need to do is map the landing page content to those successful keyword permutations. And you can do that in lots of places. There's some code options behind the scenes in terms of metadata and title tags. Then you've got your headline and H1 type tags, and then you've got your on-page content. And this is where Carlos and I may end up butting heads, where you've got a search marketer and a hardcore landing page person. For high conversion rates, sometimes you want a page that is as simple and stripped down as possible. But for good quality scores, according to Google, you need a little bit of this content so that when Google spiders that page, they can assign it some score regarding its relevancy to the keyword the searcher typed in. So you do need some of both. Now, if you're willing to, blindly pay for it on the pay-per-click side, you can get away with a very stripped-down landing page that converts really well. You may end up, needing to pay higher CPCs on Google because they feel the page is less relevant than some of the other advertisers that may choose to have more content. So it's a constant balancing act.
And I'm sure that Carlos would say that there is a way to find a happy medium. And I'm wondering if you two can actually hash this out right now.
Yeah. I think that there is a way to find a happy medium. Basically, if you're paying for traffic, you're probably trying to sell something. And, even if it takes a higher cost per click, if you're selling more items because you're paying that extra and putting them into something that's perfect for them, I say do it. It's like as long as you're staying in positive return on investment.
Absolutely.
And perhaps a good rule here is make sure that you always test your conversion rates and test your quality scores, and then try and consider these to all be a single campaign. A lot of times we think of landing pages as a completely separate entity from our paid search, but the truth is that they shouldn't be thought of in that way. The person who does your landing pages and the person who runs your PPC campaign should either be the same person or work very closely together, because they need to be able to communicate.
Yes, and I think that you always have to just, sort of test your truths, right? You may think that you've got the perfect thing all worked out, but it doesn't mean that your customers aren't going to change. It doesn't mean that your competitors aren't going to start doing the same thing that you're doing. Like, always look towards, all right, so like, what's the next thing that I would want if I knew nothing about this business or nothing about this product? What's the next thing that I can take down as a barrier to make it just super easy for the people coming in?
Absolutely. The other thing that you can do that a lot of people should take advantage of is make sure that you have links to maybe more content-rich pages, because Google's going to assign this quality score at both a landing page level and a site level. So the landing page might be fairly stripped down, but you've got some really accessible links to, more about this product stuff that can be a little bit more text heavy. It's a good option for users that need to go into greater depth. It's also a great thing for Google that they see other content on the site is highly relevant to those ads.
Do you have any other comments about this page before we move on to the next example?
We did notice this as we were pulling this page, just in regards to PPC. It's interesting because when you're starting to create landing page content, you want to make sure that you're also following Google PPC guidelines. Circled up top, the statement, make thousands of dollars selling your ebook in less than 60 days guaranteed. Google would require that to be linkable to a statement of what that guarantee entails, and in some cases publish statistics that say that the document that people have been successful in selling thousands of dollars worth of ebooks.
I'm going to give Matt just a moment to increase his volume, and we are going to move on to the next example. So here again we have taken this ACE Ortho Solutions mock-up page that Carlos made, and we have borrowed some of the language from the landing page in order to make sure that the ad and the landing page copy work together. And I did see a question from an audience member who said, is there enough copy on this landing page to make this work? Matt, it looks like you may have turned up your headset volume, but not your... You want to try?
Hopefully I'm a little louder now.
I think you may be too loud.
Okay, so too loud. I'll tone it down a little bit.
So I'm sure Matt will be able to chime in just a moment, but we have borrowed some of the language here. Dog knee brace, get a custom-made brace for your dog in 8 to 10 days. This is great because right here on the landing page, we already have an offer that works well in a PPC ad. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to test different offers, but this is a pretty good one. A custom-made brace for your dog in just 8 days. So, Matt, are you able to try speaking again?
I mean, I like the ad. I think it pairs well with the page. I think you could deal with a little bit more text below the form, below the images of the dog, expand that into a paragraph that's going to be considered a little more content-rich for Google. I would shoot for maybe as many as 100 to 150 total words with that dog knee brace peppered in there a couple times.
And Carlos, what do you think that maybe we could add in here and not remove the high conversion rate opportunities?
I think that there's definitely an opportunity for a testimonial in this. I think somebody should talk about, I got the stifle brace for my dog, and then, dog's name, and how you can go on walks again. Something that highlights what both the benefit and the function of one of these inside of a testimonial, I think would really bring this home.
See, and I love that from the search perspective because it's a testimonial which increases the site credibility, but it also allows you to be, some more indexable content that's keyword rich. So I would say I bought a stifle dog knee brace, and now we're able to go for walks again, right? Even if you're somewhat forcing that, Google is kind of the world's smartest 3-year-old. It indexes these pages really quickly. Repetition is the only way it knows what's a priority on the page.
Great, thanks, Matt. Folks, everyone, please remember to keep typing your questions into the chat box. We have a ton of questions, and we are going to be getting to them very shortly. But keep typing them in. We will answer as many as we can. So I'm just going to move on and talk a little bit about how we can test campaign language in your PPC campaign. So we're going to go back to this example of this retailer who sent us her homepage as the landing page. Now, I put together an example of a way that she could start kicking off her PPC even though she's never done it before. So we talked about how she's probably going to be advertising the products in PPC that she sells on her website. So I went in and found this dress. This is an Erin K dress. And I wrote 2 different ads for it. You'll see that on the left, the offer is that we have all the styles and we have free shipping. And on the right, we wrote a different offer. So here we are testing 2 different offers in our PPC campaign. One of the best things about paid search is that it works as a highly sophisticated A/B testing campaign. If you're wondering if your potential customers are the types of people who prefer free shipping or the types of people who prefer 30% off their order, and more importantly, if you're interested in finding out which offer pops in a list of competitors on the side of the search page where all of your competitors are, this is a great way to test. So in this example, and keep in mind that this is theoretical, we decided that the all styles and free shipping page was the one that worked the best. So I have mocked up here an extremely unattractive landing page where I just took their deep linked landing page, added a free shipping button and a buy now button and a great quality and service testimonial, and here we have actually a pretty good landing page for this dress. So this retailer could write a PPC ad group around this dress, write ads that say free shipping, and direct right to this landing page.
I think it looks great. I think this would be a good landing page. I think you may still suffer low quality score here. If you looked, and this ad group was all about Erin K dresses, there's really not that much on-page content. You never see Erin K dresses paired all together as one complete phrase. You see a reference to the designer's name. What would be interesting for me is a link to like maybe a little synopsis about Erin K, or burying some of that content on the page below the fold after the buy now action. So it's still indexable by Google on that page, but there really isn't a ton of content. You need to look through that lens sometimes to say, would Google know if there's, all told maybe 60 keywords on this page? Would Google have any reason to think that Erin K is a priority on this page?
Great, thanks, Matt. So if you are just kind of getting started, these are a lot of things to test, remembering that you want to kind of toe that line between having a web page that converts really well and one that has content that Google likes to listen to. So let's talk a little bit about kind of a little wrap up, some final thoughts, and then we will talk briefly about Unbounce and Trada and then get to your questions. So it's very important to remember that both design and content affect both your quality score and your conversion rate. And Carlos and Matt both come from kind of different sides of this battle, but I think they've agreed that everyone can sort of work together, and it's really important that whoever does your landing pages should work closely with whoever does your paid search. Just a couple final thoughts. Think like a customer. Is it easy for your customer to buy or to convert or to fill out your form? Just make it really, really easy. And also, relevance matters. If you are driving to a landing page from your PPC campaign and none of the words in your ad match any of the words in your landing page, your quality score will suffer and you will end up paying more. So we're going to talk just a moment about how we're really the experts here. Carlos, would you like to talk about what Unbounce can do, how you can make it incredibly easy to build and A/B test landing pages?
Yes. So we are DIY, which means that you're going to actually be building it yourself. We have a what you see is what you get editor that lets you do drag and drop and take all of your elements and move things around and sort of make a page without having to have a lot of design experience or development experience. We host your all of your content and do all of the technical stuff in the background, like the statistics and actually weighting who sees which pages, so that you don't have to have an IT person on it. You just set up a subdomain and set the CNAME to point towards your assets that we're hosting. And this month, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be coming out with a lot of multi-user capability and sort of client management capability for if you're an agency. So we actually have a special that's going on right now where we're going to bonus everybody that signs up by the end of day tomorrow with a bunch of extra services because we're going to be adding a whole new set of things at the end of the month.
Great. Everyone, I highly suggest that you check that out. And thanks so much, Carlos, for really being the voice of landing page reason today. You guys really know your stuff. Everyone, we're going to get to your questions in just a moment. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about how Trada can help with paid search. Here's how it works. When you join Trada, we assign highly specialized experts who have worked in your vertical on your goals before to work for you. You'll get multiple experts to work on your campaign at the same time, and they are working based on performance. They do all of campaign build out, research, optimization. Over time, they build out your campaign in the most sophisticated way possible. And you save time, you get a better ROI, and you maintain control of your brand and message. Here is a testimonial. As we talked about, testimonials can increase trust. So put these on your landing page from ProPricer, which is actually a campaign of ours. And if anyone is interested in getting a demo from Trada, please go ahead and just type "I'd like a demo" into the chat box. We will have one of our marketplace experts, like Jordan here, you can see his photograph, call you up and give you a personalized campaign assessment and talk about how Trada can really help you save time and increase ROI. So please go ahead and just type "I'd like a demo" into the chat box, and Rachel, our awesome chat jockey, will help set that up for you. So we're going to jump right into the questions portion of the webinar. I have a ton of questions from everyone. Please continue to type them in. And I will just kick off right now. Here's our first question. Is it better to drive people to a free offer to get their email first? Let me drag this over just a little bit. Or directly to the offer? It depends. Also, if driving to the sales page, should you use an exit pop? Can you talk about this, Matt? Should I ask the question again? Okay. Sorry, my window here is a little bit small, so I'm just going to drag it over. Here we go. Is it better to drive people to a free offer to get their email first, or directly to the offer, or does it depend? Also, if driving to the sales page, should you use an exit pop?
So I think there's a lot of layers in here with this question, a few different things. I tend to like free offers as a way to collect information, but it really depends if your organization is set up to remarket to these people. If you really don't have the bandwidth to do the remarketing, then pushing them towards an offer that is more conclusive may be the better option for your organization. As far as the exit pop, I'm not exactly sure what people are hoping to get from the exit pop. A lot of people do it as a leave behind, so I'm leaving this page. I find that you get pretty low adoption on exit pop. If people have already made a choice to leave the page, they typically just close that window. It can't hurt. It's not necessarily the best customer experience, in my opinion. It will have very little effect, from the AdWords side on any of the statistics that will help your PPC campaign.
Great, thanks, Matt.
So from the
go ahead, Carlos.
From the landing page perspective, giving people an exit pop if they convert can be very useful for doing follow-up actions like the social media, or perhaps getting some information like how they came to you or how they first learned about your company.
Great, and this next question I'm going to direct towards you, Carlos. The sensor landing page does not include the general top nav of their site. Is it best to include or not include the general site navigation?
It depends on what you're trying to get them to do. If you're trying to get them to explore your site, then go ahead and put the navigation in. If you're trying to get information from them or you're trying to get them to buy something from you, then leave it out. The really important thing here is that you paid to put them onto your site. You don't want them just wandering away and not taking action because then you've paid for somebody who doesn't turn into anything for you.
Great, thanks, Carlos. I'm going to send another question over to you. I think this is quite an interesting one, and it is design related. Let me find it. What would you recommend for artwork for intangible products? For example, tech services.
Oh, so artwork for tech services, I would say think about how to represent what the benefit is. So, if it's an outsourced IT person who's going to be running your servers, you basically want to represent the time that is being saved or the money that is being saved by not having to do those things yourself.
Okay, thanks, Carlos. This next question is for Matt. What is your opinion on including site links extensions in the ads? Stats prove an increase in CTR, but these don't usually go to the dedicated landing page for that ad.
This is a great one that we wrestle with all the time here at Trada. Site links will absolutely improve your overall click-through rate. You get more real estate in the Google PPC results. It's visually more impactful, but does give users options to get to things other than your landing page. So this does depend on the type of offer. I would not use site links on all ads. Sometimes we break out campaigns to do some specific site link testing. Maybe you test it with an audience that is a little bit more in the research phase of their buying cycle. If their keywords indicate that they're looking for, TV reviews and you're a TV seller, maybe something like site links is helpful in that situation. But if they know exactly what they want, they're looking for a specific product, a Sony Bravia XYZ TV, take them to that direct landing page where they are ready to convert. So think about that buying cycle, think about the query language that the searcher is using, and figure out if site links is really applicable at that time.
Great, thanks, Matt. So this next question is for Carlos. Thinking back to our Xena Amulet landing page example, the question is, I noticed there's no mention of price on the Xena example. When is that preferred?
So the example was just talking about the elements. You definitely want to put the pricing in as your sort of default, but it is something that you might want to test for, like, really something that is clearly a luxury item, right? Like if you're selling something like a diamond necklace, people may not even want to see the price until they get deeper into the interaction. But if you're selling something like a camera for a computer, you definitely want to start by telling them how much it is, because that can be your value, having a lower price than your competitor.
I think it was probably pretty hard when we were mocking up that Xena example because the item is likely priceless. So.
But I think an important point here is with the diamond necklace example, if your PPC ads offer is that you are price competitive, you should probably put the price of the ad. But if your PPC offers example is luxury diamonds for your lady that will make her feel like the richest lady on the boat, maybe you won't put the price on there. So this next question is for Matt. What do you think about white text or invisible text keywords on your landing page?
Don't do it.
Don't ever do it. Thank you, Carlos. I agree wholeheartedly. Google sniffs that stuff out in a heartbeat. That is old school witchcraft and tomfoolery that is no longer, they will disapprove your landing pages. They will downgrade your quality scores. You don't get away with it. The kind of the best version of that is, individual landing pages with highly curated metadata. The metadata doesn't have a huge effect on overall quality score, but it is a factor that is considered. So if you're doing, a very specific landing page, make those meta keywords and descriptions very keyword rich and focused, but keep it off the page. Don't try to do the white text on a white background. It never works.
I feel like that's something that people were doing like 15 years ago, and that was a sneaky trick back then. No, don't do it? Okay. All right, one more question for Matt. Is there a negative to using a subdomain for your landing pages?
Nope. As long as the root domain is the same, Google will regard a subdomain landing page with the same relevancy and attributes as if it were, an extension of the domain. If you were, tvs.com/Sony versus sony.tvs.com. So either way, Google will regard those two the same. There's no disadvantage.
And I'm sure Carlos can also speak to that because Unbounce, I believe, does use a subdomain. We use Unbounce landing pages. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's part of why we use the subdomain is because it's not something that in any way is a negative effect on your PPC or really even your SEO. But it does allow you to sort of point at things that are not immediately on your site.
Great, thanks, Carlos. So here's another question for Carlos, and this comes from Monica at Ace Ortho Solutions. This is Monica who makes the dog leg braces. She says,
Hi, Monica.
Hey, Monica. Thanks for sending in your landing page. We had a lot of fun with it. She says, I understand that changing the black backgrounds to white on our landing pages, can I assume that it would be best to remove the black background from every other page as well? Will that simply make it more readable? Will that make our website better?
That will make your website better. It will make it more usable. You probably will get better results from every one of the pages on your site by switching to a light background.
And this information, Carlos, just comes from your experience with testing. Is that?
Yeah, my experience with testing, my experience with usability, like all of the kind of live eye tracking tests and the live customer experience tests play out that people are happier when they can read it, and they can read it when it is the standard light background, dark text.
So make your customers happier.
Yeah.
Great. This question is for Matt. Does the ad group name have to be relevant to the landing page? Our PPC ad groups have cryptic names.
Luckily, ours do too, and this is not a factor in ad group relevance. So they're going to look at the keyword ad pairing primarily. They're going to look at then the landing page that keyword ad pairing directs to. They're going to look at the content on the page. They're going to look at the page load speed. They're going to look at links that are coming into the page and going out of the page. Several factors, but you can name your ad groups whatever you want. They have to support this because most people that interact with Google via API end up with just kind of numerically encoded ad group and campaign names. So for everyone's sake, they don't include the ad group or campaign names in a quality score evaluation.
Great, thanks, Matt. Everyone, please keep typing in your questions. We have a ton of questions, and we will get to as many as we possibly can. Also, if you'd like a Trada demo, Trada can help you with your paid search. Please go ahead and just type "I'd like a demo" into the chat box. So this next question is for Carlos. Are there any studies that speak to how many questions you can ask on a landing page form before people say, "Too much, I'm out of here"?
So this comes down to what kind of product you're selling. Again, kind of like the diamond necklace example. One of my early consulting projects was for a company called Printa that sells screen printing equipment, and it's about $10,000 to $20,000 machinery. And we found that asking a lot of questions actually got us better leads and better conversions, because people expected us to be very interested in them when we're selling them a $10,000 product. But when you're selling, if you're just giving away an ebook, nobody wants to tell you what their address is in order to get an ebook. They just want to tell you their email address. So your best bet is to think about how you serve the person who is interacting with you, and always aim for what they feel best served by.
Great, thanks, Carlos. And folks, if you would like some supplementary information on how to design forms for landing page, I suggest that you cruise on over to trada.com/webinars. Is that the URL, Rachel? Trada.com/resources/webinars. Rachel's going to give you that link in the chat. We actually did a webinar on landing page form design with Brad Geddes, who is the author of Advanced AdWords and is one of, I believe, only 2 official AdWords educators. He's a real smart cookie, and we did a landing page entirely about form optimization. So I suggest that you guys check that out. So the next question is, forgive me, I lost this one. This one is for Matt, and this is something that Matt and I were just talking about the other day. Do you have any insights on how the new Google Shopping transition will influence landing page design / content? So just to be clear, Google Shopping is experiencing a tectonic shift in the way that they work. It was... these are Hessler's words. But until very recently, or until very soon in the future, it has been all organic, and it's switching to paid. So can you just give a 1-minute description about what's going to happen and then answer the question, Matt?
Sure. I can probably describe the transition better than I can answer the question. The first thing is they are going from the Google Product Marketplace, as it used to be called, I believe, was a free service. You could submit all the products that you sell via an XML feed with a photo, description, price, inventory, quantity. People would refresh those several times a day if they were a very active merchant. Required some effort, but the listings were essentially free, and the users would see those listings integrated in the search results, and there was a separate Google Shopping nav item on the left sidebar in your search results. That is moving to something that Google calls Google Product Search. It's going to be integrated with AdWords, and for each and every product, you will have to set a cost per click, and it will become an auction environment like current pay-per-click bidding works. So if you are competing with lots of retailers for a particular item, you will bid a specific CPC for that item to display. As far as how that will work with the landing pages, I assume the best practices here would still apply. Your feeds are typically mapped directly to a product page, in some cases a product category page, but most often, because people are looking at a specific product with a description and a price, you want to land them on that exact page, make sure the transaction is going to be very low effort, very obvious on how you buy, because if they're coming from your shopping feed, they've already done an assessment of you versus your competitors. They've either chosen you by price or your reviews or your description of the product, but they've come to your page ready to buy. So I would make sure that all of Carlos' wisdom here on making it as transactional as possible, give them a few trust things, that the payments are, use VeriSign or some proper payment gateway, that you maybe have a testimonial on there. Anything that would further induce purchase, like a free shipping offer, is great to include. So stick with those basics, make the product prominent, the price prominent, and the buying action really prominent on that page.
Great, thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
So here's a question I'm going to direct over to both of you, but I will ask Carlos to answer it first. During PPC and landing page testing, what would you say is the most important metric? I'm wondering if you guys will agree.
The most important metric. So on the pay-per-click side, I would say click-through rate, and on the landing page side, I would say the number of people who take action.
I would agree with that. I think the driver overall has to be conversion rate. That conversion rate is your kind of meta metric that says I brought the right visitor, I landed them on the correct page, and the page told them what to do and how to do it, and why to do it, frankly. So conversion rate is your overarching metric. I think click-through rate is great to establish that the ad and the keyword, were relevant, that people were eagerly, in high numbers choosing to go through this ad to this landing page. But I think conversion rate is really your major metric there.
Everyone, we've just hit the top of the hour, but I'm going to take a couple more questions. You still have a few minutes to tweet using the hashtag PPC landing pages. You can tweet out something you learned in the webinar today, maybe from Matt or Carlos, whose Twitter handles are @FasterStill and @InflateMouse. You can see them right there on your screen. So just please take that opportunity, and you could win that $25 Amazon.com gift card. I'm going to answer just a couple more questions because we are running out of time. Everyone, if we didn't get to your question, please reach out to us after the webinar. You can reach out to any of us personally. Feel free to reach out to me. I am Anna@Trada.com, and I will make sure that your question gets to the right person. So this next question is going to be for... I'm going to send it over to Matt, but Carlos, you can feel free to answer. Should there be content about the company on the PPC landing page, or should I stick to the offer and the testimonials, etc.?
I would say you want the content as relevant as the keywords that are driving the visitor there. So typically that's not company information. That's going to be about the product or service being offered on the page. I love the idea of having the testimonials, and then a link somewhere on that landing page that will take people to an About Us as the company. If people are unfamiliar with your company or brand in general, give them access to that. Maybe you place that strategically where it's not in a prominent location, because as Carlos might say, you're taking visitors away from that actionable page. So you don't want to highly encourage it, but if people are new to your brand, they may need to learn more. They may need to read a little bit more about your company, and you want to make that doable from that page. Carlos, what are your thoughts?
I would say put your address in the footer. That is really important. Don't link out to your About page. If you're paying to bring people to your website, put them on an action that in some way puts you in contact with them. The navigations are not necessary. Your company information is not necessary. If you're bidding on things that make people want your company information, you probably have chosen the wrong stage in their buying process.
I think we may have just heard your surprise guest in the background, Carlos. Is that your dog?
Yeah, my surprise guest is my dog.
Awesome. All right. So here is an interesting question for Matt. We spend a lot per month on PPC. My Google rep recently reached out to me and, with my permission, created a revised campaign for our site. What's the deal with this? There was no charge. Are they trying to get more money out of us somehow?
Yes, Google is always trying to get more money out of their customers, and if they can do that by helping you retool the campaign, the good news is they do this in a win-win way. They're going to help you spend your budget more effectively. Hopefully you're seeing, greater conversion rates. It depends a little bit on how you track. Sometimes Google doesn't have the insights as to, what your most valuable metrics are, so you want to make sure that if you're allowing Google to build you a new campaign, that they're building it with the right metrics in mind. And it's not an underhanded or nefarious thing. There's no fine print, but they want to build a campaign for you that is going to generate more clicks and thus more revenue for them.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. So I'm going to take one more question. And everyone, I'm going to remind you again that if we missed your question, or if you realize later that you have many more, please go ahead and just reach out directly to me, and I will make sure that your question gets to the right person. My email is anna@trada.com. You can also feel free to tweet either one of our guests, Matt Hessler @FasterStill or Carlos del Rio @InflateMouse. So this last question is, what is a good conversion rate for an e-commerce product page? And I'm going to send this one actually over to Carlos. What is a good conversion rate for an e-commerce product page? I sell custom teddy bears and get a very good conversion rate from my homepage.
So it's kind of all over the board, depending on what you're doing. I mean, something like that is a custom product, I would probably shoot from the hip and guess that you're going to be looking to have maybe 5% be your first milestone. But as you're testing, I would say that for a product that specific, you probably can get into the 10 to 12% range from an actual page, like the number of people that end up at that page, by having a good focused channel that's coming in. So like if you've got a good SEO term or you've got a good pay-per-click ad, you should be able to eventually get into 10, but I wouldn't set your sights that high in your first version of the page.
The other thing that we see here at Trada, because we work with, I would say, several hundred e-commerce campaigns across our marketplace, really depends on the value of the item and kind of how high consideration is the purchase. If you look at a decent window of time, like maybe over 30 days, the conversion rate can be pretty good from that initial click, but maybe people need to discuss this with a husband or wife, or, wait till a next pay cycle. For things that tend to be a little bit more expensive, we see conversion rates lower than that 10% mark, but I agree, if it's really dialed in, you've got the right keyword, a nice tight ad group going directly to the page that is what somebody's looking for, you should see pretty significant conversion rates.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt and Carlos, for being here. We really, really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today. Everyone who joined us today, thank you so much for being here with us today. Please continue the conversation. Reach out to us. Give us your questions, your comments. We'd love to hear them. I am going to hand this back to Kristen now from Marketing Profs. Everyone, thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna, and actually thank you, Anna, Matt, and Carlos for your time today. Lots of great tips, suggestions, very helpful information for our audience. Everyone in the audience, I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast, which was sponsored by Trada and Unbounce. And we do value your feedback, so please do fill out our very short survey, which is listed here on the slide. Thanks again to everyone for joining us, and have a great day.